Hey, Chris, you know that guy? You know, the guy that was in that show.
He's that guy, you know. He's that guy in that show. That guy in that show.
Hey, right. Thanks, Prof. This week's That Guy That Was in That Show is Rod Steiger. Prof, can you please enlighten myself and the rest of the listeners about the talented, varied career of Rod Steiger?
I would be happy to. Rod Steiger was born on April 14th, 1925 in West Hampton, New York, USA. His father was a vaudevillian whom he never knew, and that kind of haunted him throughout his life. He lived with his mom, who for a while wanted to be an actress before she had an accident that hurt her leg, and she ultimately turned into an alcoholic. He moved around with his mother, who tended to embarrass the family with her drinking. A little spoiler alert, she got her life together about a decade or so before her death, and she quit drinking. So that's good news, and he was very proud of her for that. So Steiger ran away from home at 16 and went into the Navy in World War II, serving in the South Pacific. He had many traumatic and life-threatening experiences and, had to do a little bit of coping after the war. Upon return, he became an actor. He went to the New School where he found that, he has talent. And then he went to the Dramatic Workshop, and then after his stage debut in a play called Curse You, Jack Dalton, he was invited to join the Actors Studio, where he studied with Brando, Carl Malden, and Eli Wallach. He was famous for being a method actor in Hollywood, and his big break was playing the title role in the 1953 Philco television playhouse version of Marty, which was written by Patty Chayefsky and co-starred Nancy Marchand. Steiger played the Bronx butcher in love, or that wanted to be in love. Now, this is not the 1955 film version, which famously starred Ernest Borgnine, but the Philco television playhouse version of it. He did a bunch of theater, An Enemy of the People, Night Music, Seagulls Over Sorrento, and the theater version of Rashomon, which was in 1959. Movies, some of these movies are pretty outstanding. On the Waterfront, 1954 with Brando. The Pawnbroker, 1964, where he won the Silver Bear for Best Actor. He was in The Heat of the Night in 1967 with Sidney Poitier and won him a Best Actor Oscar. He was in Oklahoma, Across the Bridge, Al Capone, which is a 1959 movie where he played Al Capone. In The Pawnbroker, he had played a Holocaust survivor. He was in Dr. Zhivago, where he played a Russian politician. He was in No Way to Treat a Lady, where he played a serial killer. In 1970, he was in Waterloo, where he played Napoleon. And he was in a 1971 Sergio Leone movie, Duck, You Sucker. He played Benito Mussolini a couple of times, Last Days of Mussolini in 75 in particular. He was in the Amityville Horror, Crazy in Alabama, and Mars Attacks. Did quite a bit of TV, including The Simpsons, where he played Captain Tennille. He played in Lincoln, he played the voice of Ulysses S. Grant. He was in Route 66, Ben Casey, Wagon Train, Police Story, The Clock, Tales of Tomorrow, and Columbo, Strange Bedfellows. Rod Steiger died on July 9th, 2002 at the age of 77 in Los Angeles, California, USA. And my main cherished memory of Rod Steiger was in one of my favorite movies of all time, In the Heat of the Night. He played a Southern town sheriff who suffers from the typical racism of the time and place, but comes to respect and care for the expert visiting black detective played by Sidney Poitier. The scenes between Steiger and Poitier are just electric. Two great actors with so much charisma playing off each other. Even when Poitier takes center stage, Steiger's reaction are so totally natural and compelling. It's a movie where there are two actors you can't take your eyes off. It's a great movie and a great role. Chris, what are some of your memories of the great Rod Steiger?
Oh, thanks, Prof. Great summation. And before I forget, I just hope the in-joke of Captain Tennille character isn't lost on a generation there, because I think that was brilliant.
Yeah.
Prof. Rod Steiger, I think if you ask anyone who's a study of film and movies, there are some lists of movies that are quote-unquote much watch, movies you have to see in your lifetime just to kind of embrace the film genre. In any lover of movies, there's a certain list of movies that are must watch. And in my opinion, Steiger appeared in 3 of them. In The Heat of the Night, On the Waterfront, and the movie musical Oklahoma. And those are just really outstanding films. Prof, the first thing that came to mind when you mentioned Rod Steiger, like you, was the police chief Gillespie in the movie In the Heat of the Night. That's where he won an Oscar opposite Sidney Poitier. It's just a masterful performance. And as you said, Prof, 2 fantastic actors just playing off of each other. It's just a masterpiece. On the Waterfront is a movie I remember watching in a college film class. It was a great study with respect to that. He played Marlon Brando's monster brother Charlie in this one. And in another movie, Oklahoma, arguably one of the hands-down quintessential movie musicals, he played the villain Judd. Wow, great list of resume. Prof, there's a few other things I caught him in. He played Pontius Pilate in the 1970s Jesus of Nazareth, which was must-watch viewing, where back in the day when I was in Catholic school, they wheeled in the TV set and set up the VCR just for us to watch Jesus of Nazareth for religious classes. I also caught him playing a priest in, of all things, Amityville Horror, and there's Rod Steiger again. Prof, Steiger was outstanding in everything I saw him in, but when I'm looking over this list, sadly, there's a lot of stuff out there that I have yet to see him in, because his whole work of credits is just that long, and I can't wait to, as time goes on, stumble upon, oh, here's another thing that Rod Steiger appeared in. Oh, here's another thing that Rod Steiger appeared in. And just knowing that I'm in for a treat, because that guy was that talented of a marvelous actor. Good stuff here.
So this week's That Guy in That Show is Rod Steiger.
He's that guy, you know. He's that guy in that show. That guy in that show.
And once again, we want to give some nice thank yous and shout outs to our loyal fans. We'll start with the mascot of our show, Robin at Robin031. Robin, I love you. You're the love of my life. And let me give you a big, fat, juicy kiss. Thank you. Want to give a shout out to our buddy Two Sleeps at Two Sleeps Music. Two Sleeps puts on a concert twice a week that you can catch. On Sunday afternoons at 2:30 Central, 3:30 Eastern. Go to your computer, type in Two Sleeps Music, Twitch TV. Once you're there, you click on the link. And once you're there, click on a link and you'll get involved in an interactive chat and access to a song request list that's well over 200 songs. Want to give a shout out to the gal behind the scenes, Kara, a.k.a. Karasaurus Rex, a.k.a. Kara, who does a lot of things to get that show off the ground and to keep things moving smoothly while Mikey plays his music and sings his songs. You never know what you might hear in a Two Sleeps concert. You might hear some Foo Fighters. You might hear some Johnny Cash. You might hear some Stray Cats, CCR. It's a great show. Music elevates my mood, and it just really gives me a great boost. I also want to mention that Two Sleeps also puts on a concert on Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern. Again, similar format. Also want to mention he does a great rendition of Tom Petty songs. Please check it out. And please check out his very inexpensive Patreon. Want to give a plug to our buddy Randy. Randy at Front Sketch Artist on Blue Sky Randolanders, one on Twitter. He's got a new coloring book out. Please check it out. Makes a great gift. He also does a podcast called Soundtrack Alley. That's where Randy looks to see how music enhances a film along with the film's history and background. I always look at a film afterward with a much more critical eye thanks to Randy. I want to give a shout out to our friend Cat Victory. Great stuff there. He says this is a really square podcast, but they don't cut corners, especially on Chris's Comics Corner. Please join me and the professor. Thank you so much. We also want to give a shout out to About Ring-a-Ding Girl at Sean Malone, 9711. Thank you so much. It's our buddy Chris Hamby Films. We cannot thank you enough for your support. It's our friends Darren and Ruth at the Rad Adventures Network who do a plethora of podcasts, including but not limited to Trekker Talk, which looks at the works of Ron Randall, Warlord Worlds, looking at the stuff from Mike Grell, and Xenozoic Xenophiles. New friend of the show, Marco Balshevich, I hope I pronounced that correctly, at Marco Tech, DSMA Collins. Thank you for your long-time support. It's our friend Clinton, who does a podcast called Coffee and Comics. In that podcast, Clinton will look in a comic in about the time to take a cup of coffee down. Occasionally, Clinton will have on a guest, ask some fascinating questions. Not to be outdone, Clinton also does a podcast called Days of High Adventure, looking at sword and sorcery comics, Fan Film Fridays, which is over on the Longbox Crusade feed, but once you're there, you'll get a whole treasure trove of great podcasts, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Power Hour with John and Lane. Also heard from Bill Beer. Bill also does the Bat podcast, was a recent guest on the Magazines of Monsters feed, so let me give a plug there to our friend Billy D, who's really outdoing himself recently with all the spooky podcasts. So, Bronze Age horror movies, Hammer movies. Does that float your boat? It floats mine, and please check out those. Don't fall asleep on The Brave and the Bob, which is one of my personal favorites, which looks at comic books written by the zany Bob Haney. Thank you so much, Billy D, for your longtime support. If I overlooked you, my sincerest and deepest apologies. Please let me know at BT on Batbooks, or better still, to cover all the bases, let the professor himself know at Professor Frenzy. We'll be sure to mention you on our next show. Thank you very much all for your support.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Professor Frenzy Show. You can find our podcast if you do an iTunes search for the Professor Frenzy Show. You can listen to the show on Twitter and find me on Twitter at Professor Frenzy and Chris at BTO and Batbooks.
Hey, we're on Facebook over the Professor Frenzy Show page. We're on Instagram at Professor Frenzy. We're now also on Amazon Music, and we are now also on YouTube. Just visit youtube.com/Professor Frenzy, all one word. We are now also on TikTok, so go to Professor Frenzy 2 to see our videos.
If you have an Android phone, the Professor Frenzy Show is part of the free network. Just swipe right on your homepage and look in the art section of the podcast lists. Whatever device you use, you can subscribe to our podcast feed by doing an iTunes search for Professor Frenzy.
Thank you for listening to the Professor Frenzy Show. Let us know on Twitter what you think about our show, and please help us get the word out to people that might like these kinds of comics.
Thanks to everyone for listening. We look forward to chatting more about comics next week. And please remember, pick up your pull.
Professor Frenzy. Professor Frenzy.
All original content of the Professor Frenzy Show is licensed under Creative Commons Attribution, No Derivatives 3.0 Unported License.
Professor Frenzy.
You are on the Frenzy Feed.